Good morning, Revolution, everybody, and welcome to our stream. Hello, Rosanna. Great to see you. Reverend
Morning.
Chris, welcome, welcome. First time on the show. And Erica coming to us from Atlanta. We're so delighted to have two new folks on our program this morning. We are streaming on, X. We're streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on Twitch. And right now on YouTube, we have 15,000 subscribers on our way to 20,000. We want to encourage everybody who is watching to subscribe. Please make a comment, say hello to us, ask a question after the show, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with coworkers. Please spread the word. It's all about spreading the word, spreading the message, and then acting on it. This morning, we are talking boycotts. Boycotts have always been an effective tool of struggle of oppressed and working people, going all the way back to the days of the Montgomery bus boycott. And then you could talk about the grape and lettuce boycott. Rosanna will talk about that in a little while. The boycott of South Africa, BDS, and now fast forwarding to today, there has been a tremendously successful boycott of Target, Home Depot, and other big corporations who have been reversing themselves uh, on the issue of promoting people of color, women, LGBTQ people uh, in jobs in their corporations, following the attack that has come down from MAGA and the Trump administration. And when I say attack, y'all, I mean attack. You know, I was listening to a podcast the other day, New York Times. They interviewed Nicole Hannah Jones, the author of the 1619 Project. And I encourage everybody to listen to it. It's on the New York Times daily podcast, and she uh, traces the beginning of this attack to the day after Trump was inaugurated. They issued a whole number of executive orders, ostensibly targeting DEI, but that was just a smokescreen for going after the whole edifice of civil rights legislation, going all the way back to the 1965 when Lyndon Baines Johnson issued an executive order prohibiting discrimination in federal employment. And they overturned that, you know, and now they have gutted every single enforcement division in the entire federal government, you know, from the Department of Agriculture to the Department of Defense, now to the Department of Justice, the Department of Education, and so on and so forth. The laws are on the books, y'all, but there's nobody to enforce it. And now, of course, Trump's corporate backers have followed suit and got rid of their DEI and affirmative action programs and so on. So they are putting a pressure on us, and now it's our time to put pressure on them. And the best way to do that is to hit the corporate bottom line, to encourage people not to shop, don't buy. And one of the most effective boycott campaigns is taking place in Washington, D.C. Reverend Chris, tell us about it. Who's involved? How did it start? And what are your plans?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of Good Morning Revolution, and to Rosanna and to Erica and all that part. You are absolutely correct. We do not want to be a target, meaning that we as African Americans, the minority community, to be exploited for the funds that we expend into particular businesses. You've heard the statistic that 1.6 to 2 trillion dollars are coming from the Black community. And since Target has reneged on its commitment to invest $2 billion into the Black community after the death and murder of Greg Floyd. We, a group of religious individuals and institutions, as well as community leaders, have been about 40 weeks straight standing in front of the 14th Street Target store every Saturday to say not to be a target. We won't buy what others won't comply, to helping our own the DEI initiatives there, allowing other Black companies and Black entrepreneurs to have their products to be sold in the Target store. So we do not want to continue to be a target. That's why we are targeting and following the leadership of Senator Nina Turner, as well as Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant.
Dr. Bryant and Nina Turner, and I believe that the campaign got started in Minneapolis, where Target is located, as you indicated. And y'all been out there for 40 weeks.
It is about 40 straight weeks now. I believe we are the only boycott group doing it on a public standpoint in that regard, trying to help in the initiatives of saying to Target to restore DEI, to also invest into the HBCUs and into the Black banks. And we're going to continue to do so here in DC, where we are giving out pamphlets every week, as well as sharing information of where other locations to buy will support Black businesses within the District of Columbia.
Congratulations on that. Erica, you guys are starting a campaign like that in DC. I'm sorry, in Atlanta. Tell us about it. What are your plans? What's going on in Atlanta?
Right. So the start of the campaign here in Atlanta, there are kind of two aspects at play. Of course, we're being really inspired by what's going on in DC, what's going on with Reverend Zacharias and the Boycott DC or the Boycott Target DC Coalition. Another part is that Black Voters Matter, which is a civil rights voter registration organization, recently started a campaign with an other organization called Until Freedom, and they're also pairing with Indivisible, which is another organization, and they started a campaign called We Ain't Buying It. And Black Voters Matter has a really strong presence in ATL. This is one of the big cities where they organize and advocate for voters' rights. And so basically we're taking that inspiration from DC, and we're also kind of taking that momentum that's happening here in ATL, and we're saying, it's not just enough to post on social media. It's not just enough to tell our family and our friends and our followers and everybody in our social circle, our coworkers, about the Target boycott. Of course, we are doing that, but we're saying, you know what? Let's actually go out. Let's hit the streets. Let's hand out these flyers. Let's stand with the banners, stand with the posters. So this Black Friday, we're going to be doing a Target boycott, and we're going to be doing boycotts. Right now, we have them planned throughout December, throughout the entire holiday season. Just to let folks know, don't spend your money at places that, aren't going to take the steps to address racism in our society that they said they would take steps to address back in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd.
If Target boycotts us, we're going to return the favor, and we're going to return it big time. And by the way, thanks for the shout out to the We Ain't Buying It campaign. It's going to take place beginning next Friday through Cyber Monday. So shop local, shop Black, shop Latino, shop women, shop Asian. Don't buy at the big corporations. Let's hit the corporate bottom line. Rosanna, you and I have had the unfortunate experience of being deprived as children of eating grapes and iceberg lettuce. Because of the efforts of the United Farm Workers Union and the grape and lettuce boycott. I was so mad at my mama back in those days because we were deprived for a long time. But tell us about that campaign and how you learned about it and how it led to the formation of the United Farm Workers Union.
Well, one day my older brother, walked in and said, "We're not buying any grapes anymore." And we're all, "What?" That was our fruit, our family fruit. And then he explained to us what was happening with the farm workers and the injustice that was happening. And so we said, okay. So the whole family rallied around it. My mother, she planted grapes, not vineyard, but planted grapes in the backyard so that we could still have them eventually. But I think what it showed to me is that when we're persistent, and yes, the grape boycott lasted quite a few years. I think, I don't know, between 5 and 10. Same with the lettuce boycott. It lasted a few years, a good amount of years. Um, and but it showed to me that when we rally, we stick together, that change does happen. And I think in this day and age, it doesn't have to take this long, as we saw with Jimmy Kimmel, firing of him, or the suspension, and immediately they reinstated him because people understood that they began to cancel their Disney subscription, and that really hit the pockets of the corporations, and so they fully understood and were willing to make that sacrifice. So I think that we can see that people are much more aware of the power of their purse, and so I think these are all very winnable campaigns. Here locally, we have promoting. We have a fashion, what they call a fashion district, where you can go in and you buy. It's like right there in the downtown area. There's all kinds of merchandise, from fabrics to just an array of things, ball gowns, all of those kinds of things. But they've taken a big hit because of the raids and all of that, and so there's a big push for people to go and buy at this area, the Santee area, the alley, what we call it, the alley, um, and support the local vendors and local workers, which happen to be primarily Latino. So that's kind of what the efforts happening here in Los Angeles.
That's good to hear. It's very good to hear. Reverend Chris, Rosanna was talking about the power of the purse. And that's a really powerful, our wallets are an extremely important instrument of struggle. We saw back in the day during the Montgomery bus boycott, they were out there for 381 days.
Mm-hmm.
381 days. Y'all been out there for 40 weeks. Now, this We Ain't Buying It campaign is going to be a focused attempt, and that's great. That's really important nationwide. But talk to us about the need to have long lasting, consistent, coordinated campaigns in order to maximize input. And
You're
why have
absolutely
y'all
right.
been out there for 40 weeks?
When we came together, we being Dante O'Hara, George Gilbert, Reverend Graylin Hagler, Wanda Thompson, Keith Bird, Patty Fierce, we knew that we needed to be purposeful, persistent, patient, and hope for the progress of what our cause and mission were. So we knew that we couldn't just be out there once on a loud Saturday, but we had to do it consistently. That's why we're at that 40 weeks or close to 40 weeks, or maybe even more now, uh, for why we're there every Saturday at 11 a.m. for the long term effect. You saw the effects that happened in the Montgomery boycott, the amount of money that's being lost. Target, of course, has been losing sales quarter after quarter. Foot traffic has been going down in various locations. Some closures of stores have occurred, even though the others are being open in different areas of the country. But we want to be consistent in that regard because, as you stated, money money affects the total business endeavor of those who are profit businesses. So we're going to continue to do so on that purposeful persistent and patient manner.
And you got one store closed in D.C. Dante was telling me recently.
Absolutely. Now, we're not trying to, that's not really our goal for us
Right.
to take positions and things of that nature. But it is to state to all of us who are being oppressed in any minority group that we cannot continue to allow for corporations who are there for profit to benefit off of our groups and ethnicity, to not be able to utilize us as business entrepreneurs for our own sake to help our community as well as people in general.
That's an important point. Continuing on this theme a little bit, Erica, I've heard criticism that the Target campaign, while good intentioned, is in a certain sense affecting poor people because that's where we go in order to shop, And when
Mhm.
somebody made that argument to me, I went all the way back to Montgomery and I said, during the bus boycott, we had to make sacrifices. We couldn't take the bus, so we had to walk to work. Folks had to walk to school. They carpooled. Struggle sometimes requires sacrifice. If somebody came to you and asked you that question, they said, well, Targets cater to poor people. You're hurting them more than you are hurting the big time, big pockets corporations. How would you respond to that?
Well, what I would respond to that is, like I was just telling you before the meeting, it's funny because I just got out of our coalition little Zoom call before this. And one idea that someone, in our coalition had was, well, right now we know SNAP, has been cut back. Thanksgiving is coming up. Christmas is coming up. So people are struggling to get groceries. And a lot of people are going to Target to get groceries. So why don't we pair our efforts with food distribution? There's a lot of local urban farmers here in Atlanta. There's a lot of, celebrities, rappers who are connected to nonprofits that have funds that are able to, use these funds in order to provide food. So we're trying to look at it from a perspective of, we know people are struggling and we know people are using the little dollars that they do have to actually shop at Target because the entire working class honestly really is struggling right now. So when people ask me, well, does it take sacrifice, to boycott Target and boycott Home Depot and boycott Amazon and do all these things? It does take a little bit of sacrifice, but we're gonna do the best we can to make sure that people are okay. We know that us distributing food is not going to solve the problems of hunger. It's not going to solve the problems of scarcity. But we want to let the working class know we do have your back. When you are struggling, yes, we are thinking about that. Yes, we do care about you. And this struggle for DEI, yes, it is connected to hunger because at the end of the day, we do need high-paying jobs that help us secure a future for ourselves and for our families.
Very important. Let me do a follow-up question to you, Erica.
Mhm.
Another criticism that we heard, and after I ask you this question, I'm going to ask Good Reverend the same question, but from a little bit different direction. The campaign originated in Minneapolis after the murder of George Floyd. And some people are saying, one of the first things that they did was to emphasize promoting LGBTQ folks. And then after Trump got elected, they reversed themselves. So they said to us, Joe, Dante, others who are involved in the campaign, why are you targeting them? Why don't you go target Amazon? They're our friends. How would you respond to that?
Um, Sorry, I just want to make sure I have the question right. Why are we targeting
Why
Target and
target
not?
Target when they were one of the first to come
Mm,
out after George Floyd was murdered with a DEI program that promoted people of color LGBTQ folks and so on and so forth. Somehow
Right.
that's being unfair.
So the reason that we're targeting Target, even though they did come out with these bold DEI strategies, unlike Amazon or Home Depot, who didn't come out against these, is because when maybe y'all have heard this chant before, but I like to apply chants to organizing strategies because it helps break it down. But we say when workers' rights are under attack or when Black people are under attack, what do? We stand up and we fight back. And that's really what's going on here. Yes, we did applaud when Target created these DEI programs because we know that queer people are underemployed. We know that Black people, especially Black women in this country, are underemployed. And so when we see corporations who are mass job providers saying we are going to invest in these groups, of course we're going to applaud that. But when they step back, no, because when you step back, that targets, it's funny I say target, but that attacks directly me as a trans woman. It targets my neighbors, my coworkers, who are struggling to find high paying jobs. And we really want to show these companies, yes, there are consequences. We are the workers, we create the wealth in the society. And if you are not going to invest in us, then we will show you that we do have a bite and that we are going to organize and take back what we demand.
Reverend Chris, same question to you. After George Floyd, Minneapolis, one of the first, they say we're pro civil rights, we're going to do the right thing, and then they beat a quick retreat. How would you respond to, they're our friends, why are you going after them?
Trying to hold everyone accountable. And if you're going to retreat, then we need to retreat back, treat you as you're mistreating us in a way of, since we are a target audience and there's so much money coming out of our community. And Erica put it plainly in regards to LGBTQI, trans women, as well as Black women who are underemployed in our country. We're coming for those particular reasons. And regardless of who the institution is, Amazon, Home Depot, Black institutions, we are trying to hold everyone accountable because that's what our biblical standpoint is for those of faith, houses of worship and faith institutions are going to call out wrongs to help make them right. That's why justice rolls down like a running stream and running river. So that's what we're standing on in that regards, Joe.
Thank you for that. Rosanna, in response first to the anti immigrant raids in Texas, and then the reversal of DEI programs, there have been boycott initiatives in the Latino community aimed at Pepsi. Talk to us about how that came about, and in your view, has it been effective, and what can we do to support it?
Well, it's not Pepsi, actually, it's Coca-Cola.
Oh, it's Coke now. Okay,
Oh, no, it's always been Coca-Cola.
always been Coke.
Yeah, because what happened in Texas was that the Coca-Cola company there, they fired a lot of the Latino workers there, and then they called ICE to come and pick them up. And so the Latino community is it there. I don't know the numbers, but everybody drinks Coca-Cola, and so what they started doing was they began to publicize videotapes of them going to buy the Coca-Cola and then moving and buying the Pepsi or another form of soda to show that they were not going to buy Coca-Cola. And that there were videos, a large amount of videos of people saying, we're not buying in the Latino community. Even in Mexico, um, there's a small business store there in where I go to visit, and I even asked the store owner there, how's the Coca-Cola sales, and she told me, no, people they're not buying the Coca-Cola. So it really shows that understanding about the power of the purse, and the Latino community was not going to stand for it, uh, and um, and so that they rallied around it. I think at the end of the day, it's about profit. It's not about being nice to us workers, it's about what's going to get them the most profit. And if so, during the George Floyd, they thought, oh, we're gonna, you know, this is the way to go, and then now this other, they bowed down to the to Trump really, and and now they're really understanding that, that was the wrong way to go in terms of the Target boycott, in my opinion.
Very true. Very true. Reverend Chris, how do we define success in this overall campaign, in your opinion?
Well, as it relates to Target, put DEI back into place. You have the $2 billion that you stated you were going to give. Invest into HBCUs as it relates to helping um, students there who want to also become entrepreneurs, as well as the funding of a black banks. That's success just specifically to Target, as well as overall in boycotting, is to make them feel the pain, feel the effects financially as it relates to the injustices that they're putting on people in general and specific minority communities. Those are some terms of success.
I think so. I think so. And then of course, in all of these struggles are interrelated. Um, DC and the economy and Northern Virginia and in Prince George's County are being heavily impacted by the cuts of the federal workforce. We know that Trump has canceled the collective bargaining rights for 1.3 million workers. Then you had the government shutdown, and well, I guess now they're going to be paid, but in some uh, scenarios, it's hard to make up for wages and a time lost. Erica, all of this is about power, is about uh, the people's ability to exercise power. Um, and one of the best ways to do that is by participating in the election campaigns. I know you had a recent one in Georgia. I think, was it for the Attorney General or someone like that? There was a statewide campaign. I don't remember the office, but I remember
Yes.
it was a big D and small d Democratic victory. Um, are y'all getting ready for the upcoming midterm election?
Yes, so the election that you're referring to was we had two seats flipped on the Public Service Commission here in Georgia. The Public Service Commission's job is to decide power rates and negotiate with power companies. The seat is five people, and it was previously all Republican, but two seats flipped to Democrat. And it's a big deal because I believe it's the first um, statewide non-national election in Georgia where a Democrat won. So it's a big deal for Georgia politics because it's something that hasn't happened for almost 20 years. We are gearing up for midterm races here. One of the biggest races coming up is going to be the election, the vote around who will be Georgia's next governor. And also another big election that's also coming up is for one of Georgia's Senate seats. In the Senate race, it's going to be John Ossoff on the Democratic side, and it's a little bit of a toss-up who it's going to be on the Republican side. Most likely going to be Brian Kemp, our current governor. Could be Marjorie Taylor Greene. She might try to do something a little crazy, a little spicy, and run for that Senate seat. But for the governor seat on the Democratic side, it's the race is honestly fairly wide open on both the Republican and the Democratic side, with no clear front runner now. One campaign that I really support or I'm very interested in for Georgia governor is Rua Roman, who is a Georgia state representative. She's the first Palestinian Muslim American in the Georgia House. And maybe some of the viewers might know her because she was chosen to give a pro-Palestine speech at the DNC in 2024. But as many people know, last minute they took her speaking slot away, which, did was really a little bit of a slap in the face to the Palestine movement. So yeah, we really are gearing up for the midterm elections, and things could get a little dicey here, but we're organizing and we're ready to win.
It was a slap in the face of the Palestinian movement in these United States and internationally. It was a
Mm.
slap in the face of the American people, if you want to ask me. It was a stupid thing to do. It was just plain old out stupid. You saw what happened. Don't get me started talking about all of the mistakes that were made in last year's campaign. Well, Rosanna, your governor is uh, put forward a bill in the California before the California electorate in response to what they did in Texas, and that won overwhelmingly. And now the guy is positioning himself to be a national candidate for the presidency. Um, Of course, I've always said that if I had my druthers, I'd nominate you to be my president. But what do you think about the governor? And he's I mean, and we're talking about bourgeois politics, of course, but seems like he's finally taking the gloves off and fighting a good fight. No.
I think, yeah, I think it's a good indication, or it's a good sign. But let's not forget that it's through the people's pressure that he does all of these things. Politicians, bourgeois politicians. That's all. It's the people's pressure. It's the working class who puts that pressure on, and even more so. This past election, there was only one thing on the ballot in California, which was Prop 50, which was about redistricting for, and what was even more amazing is that it is not just an overwhelming vote, but an overwhelming people voting, even to the point where even at 10 p.m. the polls were still open in certain areas, because the law says that if you're in line to vote by the time the polls close, you need to be allowed to vote. So some areas they had long lines even after they were declared the winner. The minute the clock struck 8, Prop 50 was declared a winner. But people still stayed in line. And why did they stay in line? Because they wanted to show their disgust against Trump and all that he's doing. But it's also sending a message to the governor that, you stand up for us and we'll stand up for you. But if you don't, we understand the power of our vote, and we understand the power of our pocketbook.
That's really important. If you stand up for us, we're going to stand up for you. Reverend Chris, I think it's time for us around the country to stand up for the folks in D.C. Home rule is being undermined tremendously. I hear that there are a number of bills in the Congress to get rid of the criminal, how do you call it, the legislation around policing that was recently passed by the city council, and so on and so forth. Talk to us a little bit about how the MAGA Republicans are undermining the right of the folks of DC to determine their own destiny.
Well, you're absolutely right, Joe. It first starts with that DC has no statehood. And since we do not have a specific representative other than Eleanor Holmes Norton, we need more representation within Congress to speak on the behalf of the district. And since that is that specific loophole, as you see, President Trump, MAGA, and many others are trying to take over the District of Columbia as if it's its own particular tool. So home rule is under attack. And you see that DC was the first location to be under siege. And that is where we have many bills that are being brought to Congress. Howard law school students have put a bill in as well. And it looks like December 11th will finally may have some of the National Guard out of the District of Columbia. So it is very oppressive in that regard, not only with the ICE raids and many of those things that are affecting our Hispanic brothers and sisters. It is terrible to see this going on where folks are not able to go to their jobs, afraid to go to school, false narratives that crime is so bad in DC or in these particular Democratic states where we're only seeing these National Guards showing up and on the rise where crime has reduced there in DC over the last several years. And our police commissioner and men are doing a fantastic job. Of course, we need more troops like everyone else who needs more employees to be there for helpful. But those oppressive things are really hurting the District of Columbia as a whole.
You know, when you undermine the economy of a city or a state, you know, you gut jobs, you cut social services. You're laying the basis for people to do what they have to do in order to survive, and then you complain in the case of DC falsely that crime is out of control, you know, and then you distort the figures and you put in more policing, and which results in more repression, and then the economy grows even worse, and it's just a vicious cycle. Somehow, some folks never learn. Well, in any event, thank you all very much for joining us this morning on Good Morning Revolution. This is a national fight. It's a fight that involves everybody, Black, white, Latino, Asian, women, LGBTQ, you know, Latino, it don't matter. It involves our history, it involves our legacy, it involves our right to live and breathe clean air. It involves our right to have relations with people of other countries. It involves our ability to know our history, because they're trying to erase that. This is a titanic struggle, and it involves all of us. And in order for us to be successful, everybody has to get involved. And one of the ways you can get involved is come Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. Don't shop. And if you do have to shop, go to your local Black, Latino, women, Asian, LGBT business, shop there. And then do it again on Saturday, do it again on Sunday, do it again come Monday, on Cyber Monday. Hit them where it hurts. Let them know that we're serious. And I think that they know, you know, because the CEO of Target last summer got fired. The boy got fired. And then there's a class action suit by members of the shareholders in Target who got mad at the board of directors from not telling them how the attack on DEI was going to result in a loss of profits. And they're mad as hell, you know? So our efforts are having an impact. We just got to keep the pressure on and step it up. Thank you all very much for coming. Until we meet again, stay strong, stay safe, and stay in the fight. And if you're traveling this holiday weekend and next weekend, please do so carefully.